Behind closed doors at the United Nations headquarters in New York, the head of the joint UN mission overseeing the destruction of Syria's chemical weapons delivered her first briefing to the Security Council on Tuesday. But even as she noted progress on the chemical weapons front, the UN now reports Syria's humanitarian crisis is intensifying. CCTV's UN correspondent Stephen Fee joins us live in New York with more. Stephen.
Well, Elaine, this afternoon I spoke to the UN's top humanitarian official, Valerie Amos, and she confirmed what we've just heard. More than 9 million Syrians in need of emergency assistance. That's nearly 40% of the population, and more than 6 million who have been displaced from their homes within the country. Now, Security Council members had been hopeful that progress on the chemical weapons front could yield progress on the political and humanitarian fronts as well, but so far that just doesn't seem to be the case. As the 2.5-year civil war rages on, Sigrid Kaag says Syria has made significant progress in meeting the chemical weapons deadline set by a September UN Security Council resolution, as laid out in a report from the Secretary General.
It speaks of the constructive cooperation with the Syrian authorities, and of course it also references the need for future international assistance.
Kaag confirms Syria has met the deadline for destroying its ability to create new chemical arms. The next milestone is November 15, by which time Syria and the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons must agree to a final plan of destruction to be completed by the middle of 2014.
A number of member states note the need to keep up the momentum because it's important. It's a very important mission, and the intermediate deadlines that are anticipated in the destruction plan are very clear.
Still, political and humanitarian progress appears elusive. Scheduling for the long-promised Geneva II talks seems to have stalled, and the United Nations says there are millions of Syrians in dire need of relief.
We're now talking about 9.3 million people in the country who are severely affected by this crisis. That's more than 40% of the population.
In her first television interview since briefing the UN Security Council on Monday, the UN's chief humanitarian official says members of the body have not applied enough pressure to secure the humanitarian aid Syrians need.
If everything has to be inspected before it goes on a convoy, if you have to give 3 days notice before you can move anything, of course you're going to have blockages in the process. So we've been talking a lot with the Syrian government, with countries that have some influence with them to try to really simplify and minimize these procedures.
And Amos says countries with influence must convince all parties that aid workers are not the enemy.
If you get the groups committed to recognizing the neutral and impartial nature of humanitarian work and do not target humanitarian workers and don't target civilians, we will make huge progress on the ground.
And Elaine, Security Council members so far seem unwilling to pass a stronger resolution calling for increased humanitarian access. Amos told me that could certainly help her with her work, but it would have to be tied to consequences in the event of noncompliance.
All right, CCTV's Stephen Fee reporting live from UN headquarters in New York.